It's now time, we can start.
Page
Page 28.
in matters collected works.
So this is the widening of the consciousness of Ashwapati. He is no longer bound by the mind. The mind is an instrument of knowledge, true, but it is an instrument also of ignorance. It divides everything into darkness and light, of truth and falsehood. And so he realized, as he is moving towards the realization of the truth, because he is a seeker of knowledge, he is entering into domains gradually that are beyond the mind. He silences the mind, so I have to go back a little. The inner planes uncovered their crystal doors. It's on page 28. The planes above are the planes within us, because we have many worlds inside us, many layers to our being. And since he has completely quietened his mind, there is nothing that is flowing in from the outside where there is so much impurity, imperfection, ignorance, error. So it is as if there is a kind of transparency now in his nature, purity, clarity, and slowly his field of experience is becoming wider, deeper, higher. The dimensions are above, within, around, below. They're part of one kind of spherical journey. Strange powers and influences touched his life. A vision came of higher realms than ours. They're all there within us. We can't see them because our mind is like it blocks the vision with its doubt, disbelief, lack of understanding. Whatever is not explicable by reason, it will say, "This is, are you sure? Are you not imagining it?" Even if you do have an experience sometimes, there is some part of you which say, "I'm not sure whether I really did have this, or did I imagine it?" But these come in the way. But the first condition for knowledge, therefore, is supposed to be a completely silent mind. The mind becomes totally quiet, transparent, open. Then it can relate to, it can receive forces, influences from elsewhere. And this is here the beginning of the connection with the worlds that are beyond the physical. A vision came of higher realms than ours, a consciousness of brighter fields and skies, brighter because they are not covered by the density of inert matter, the dullness and the density, and subtler body of beings less circumscribed than brief-lived men. Circumscribed, we are limited by that same material, the acceptance of matter as the only true reality. There are others where there is no world of matter. In the subtle worlds, matter is not there. So it does not have any deterioration. Matter is something that is breakable, is dense, is heavy. Whereas in the world of beyond the worlds of matter, there is a form, but there is no density of matter. So these forms, these forces, often entities, beings, they are complete, perfect, they never diminish, they never deteriorate, they never change. So these are what we may sometimes call gods, spirits, beings. They are there within us. We are not just one person, none of us. We are a whole universe. Within there are play of any number of forces. Around us, if there is absolute receptivity and quietness in the mind, there is a perception, an interaction of many of these influences. They come and touch us if you are open. So here he sees beings less circumscribed, limited than brief-lived men. Our bodies are our limit. There they have no material, physical form, but the form is there. And subtler bodies than these passing frames, objects too fine for our material grasp. Again, there is an object, but it doesn't have the density of matter. So there are things, there are beings, there are forces, there are activities. It's a very rich play of existence. That they're not just one world followed by another, followed by a third. These are permanent. They never deteriorate. The impermanence is only in the world of matter. Death is that which eats up matter. The rest is outside the realm of death. So the world of the vital, the world of mind, the world of pure play of forces are beyond the reach of death. So they are permanent and they are undisturbed by any form of darkness or error. They are whatever they are. They can be dark forces, they can be luminous forces, but they are complete in themselves. So here he is entering into these subtle worlds beyond the mind, acts vibrant with a superhuman light, and movements pushed by a superconscient force, and joys that never flowed through mortal limbs. There are joys that the body cannot even receive and transmit. If there is a pressure of a force that comes into a body that is still so unconscious, because in every cell of our body there is the presence of inconscience, so imperfect, and if the pressure of a divine force came down into us, we would break down under the pressure. But where there is no unconsciousness, no imperfection, no impurity, it's like a flow of energy that has no obstruction. The experiences, it's like things that we are passing through experiences and there is nothing to, no ignorance, no error, no ego, no, all the things that come in the way of the perception of the pure experience. So here, the mortal, the dense mortality, that is like a wall, like a barrier, that does not allow the fullness of the light or the truth. Whatever field it may be, it doesn't always have to be the highest worlds. There are intermediary worlds, and each world has its own dharma, has its own character, but it is complete in itself. And they are inhabited by beings whom we may call the gods, the spirits. So they are superconscient forces, and lovelier scenes than earth's, and happier lives. It is our sense of incompleteness and incapacity that takes away from us the sense of total happiness. If we are complete, there is no desire, there is no sense of something that is missing. You are absolute. And that is why you may say the world of the gods, they are griefless. Heaven is a place of perfect happiness. it is the opposite for us. But it is simply these planes. They are like heavens. There are many heavens. In fact, Sri Aurobindo has a poem about the other heavens. It's not the supreme highest heaven. There are layers, but each one is an absolute, is perfect and complete in itself. And the sense of something that is imperfect not being there, there's a sense of happiness or joy, a consciousness of beauty and of bliss, a knowledge which became what it perceived, which is the real form of knowledge. You know because you are. Otherwise, I can never know anything as long as I am separate from the object of knowledge, which I am. I cannot know the world. I cannot know another person. I can only know as much as my little angle of vision or my limited understanding can grasp. So what usually the mind does, it brings the truth down to its own level, on its own frame. A vast truth becomes small because my mind is small, and that's all that my mind can hold on to. So this is the truth for my mind. And since my mind has a tremendous ego, I say what I understand is true, is right. What is beyond my understanding is not there at all. It doesn't exist. What you're talking is nonsense. This is the conceited reason that speaks. Reason is very conceited. It is an instrument of knowledge, and it is becomes so satisfied with itself that whatever it understands is for it the truth. Whatever is beyond its understanding, it throws away. The moment this is not therefore knowledge, and this is the instrument we use for our learning. So we learn things according to our ability, capacity, our standpoint, and we reduce things to that level. To know something, we have to become that. It is knowledge by identity. Only then can I know the truth. If I want to know what God is, I have to become God. Otherwise, I bring God to my own formula of what is God, which is a very small formula because it has to fit into my notion, my opinion, my requirements. He should be like this. We lay down rules even for him. He should be this, he should be that. He can't hurt you, he can't harm you, he can only bless you. Why should I say what he can't do? He is the all. If he wants, he can hurt and harm and destroy the universe. The universe is his. So this is something that we really have to break out of, these notions of right and wrong, good and bad, which we have created because yes, true, at a certain stage they help us. To help us go ahead with our experience towards a little more light, a little more clarity. But because these notions have helped us up to a point, we start considering them to be the ultimate knowledge. The ultimate knowledge is never based on any standards, any norms. It has to be a complete identification. I have to completely lose myself, like a river loses itself when it falls in the sea. There is no river anymore. Then only does the river become the sea. But then there is no river to say, I have become the sea. So the first thing one has to do is to give up the ego. That is the great barrier. And this is what he has already done. This is why it is the soul's release. The soul in Ashwapati is no longer caged in by the ego. There is no ego. So there is an opening, and his identifying himself with the experiences all beyond, around, above. A knowledge which became what it perceived, replaced the separated sense and heart. Otherwise, we are always, I see you, I am not you. I see you through my ability to see. My ability to see is limited. My ability to understand is still more limited. So my knowledge of you will not be at all anywhere near the truth. This is how we look at the world and look at things. This is the separated sense and heart. I feel. I feel according to my capacity to feel. My capacity is also very narrow and small. So good and bad, joy and pain, all these opposites are there as long as we are separated, divided. If we can completely lose ourselves in the all, in the divine, then these terms no longer are needed. And this is how the mind is growing and drew all nature into its embrace. So beautiful. Everything is this consciousness. This consciousness, this knowledge drew all nature into its embrace. Not being selective. For a long time we are selective. And you say, yes, you should accept this, but you should not accept that. But to take in the whole universe, this is one of Mother's, the last New Year message. When you are conscious of the whole world at the same time, then you can become conscious of the divine. This was the New Year message for 1973. 1973, the last New Year message that she gave, this was the message. When you are conscious of the whole world at the same time, then you can become conscious of the divine. This is the supramental consciousness. Well, Ashwapati is not yet at that point, obviously. But this is the beginning of a widening, of a widening, purifying state into purified state into which he is moving. Whenever there is division and separation, we know that we are still in the region of mind. He's moving away from that. The mind leaned out to meet the hidden worlds. Everything is there. Only the world of matter is not there. So these are the different planes, the other earths. There is a sonnet by Sri Aurobindo called The Other Earths, where everything is there. You have a different sky, a different water, or everything, whatever we have on earth is there. Except density is not there, and dullness is not there, inertia is not there. So they are perfect and complete in themselves. Air glowed and teemed with marvelous shapes and hues. Air is the field of manifestation. Entering, it connects sky to earth. He's opening a wave, he's moving up from the world of body, earth, to the first thing, the subtle world. And there are forms, beings, marvelous shapes, colors. On the nostrils quivered celestial fragrances. We connect to the world around us through our senses. But the senses are not just physical organs. Behind the organ is the perception. Behind the perception is the consciousness. Behind the consciousness is the spirit. So slowly, when there is absolutely a quiet, calm, opening and contact with the spirit, you enter into the experience of this sukshma, this indriya. These are known as the you might say, subtle senses. It's not the physical organ. As it is, every physical organ has, we have 5, or in India we are told we have 11 sense perceptions. You have 5 senses, sense organs, and 5 equally sense capacities. So you have sight, you have eye, you have sight. You have ear, you have hearing. You have tongue, you have taste. So that in that way you have 10. Plus you have a mind behind, a consciousness or an so that makes 11. Now if we can refine, and that is part of education. The one of the first chapters in Sri Aurobindo's book on education is the sense education, development of the senses. You learn to see, not see the obvious, see what is beyond. You learn to touch, not the obvious, what is beyond. Gradually there's a widening, deepening of the perception. Comes only when there is a refining of your consciousness. When the consciousness becomes finer, the perception goes deeper. It sees things that the surface only merely semi-ignorant sense cannot see. We have defective senses, we have incomplete capacities. Eyes don't see everything, ears don't hear everything. Our field of experience is very small in the body. Here it's a widening and heightening of these fields. So, in the nostril quivered celestial fragrances, which cannot, one of the most subtle senses is the fragrance. And as if you can feel the presence of these forces. In India it was often compared to certain gods. Some bring with them the smell of lotus or jasmine or rose. All these come and you know that other powers are coming nearer. It's a sense of sweetness and harmony that your subtler, more fine, more refined sense can connect with. So this is an expansion of the human ability to reach out to other planes. We can expand our field of experiences without leaving the body. You enter into other worlds. These are part of the occult experiences. This is what he is describing. It's part of occultism, to train the senses, to reach out, because our physical world is not the one and only world. But we use only our physical eyes, so we connect with the physical world. We depend on our physical senses, so we relate to the physical world. But if we can acquire a deeper perception, we don't have to invent, they are there. You can see forces, beings, you can connect with them, you can converse with them. This has been part of not just the spiritual but the occult world. Occult is hidden to our world of ignorance or our nature of ignorance. On the tongue lingered the honey of paradise. We can find the sweetness without having to take a sweet in your mouth. That sense of the delight of existence, the perfecting and the delight of existence through the body, the subtle body, the joys of you can fill your being with the sweetness and the joy and the harmony of the worlds around us, if we are receptive. A channel of universal harmony. Hearing was a stream of magic audience. Audience is also hearing. But these are things that, to some extent, artists and geniuses also are open to. Unknown to themselves, perhaps, they have been selected to be transmitters of other visions, other harmonies, so that not only the rishi, but the genius, he can see something and he can transmit it in a poem or a painting. And then that experience is over for him, he falls back into the ordinary state. So, a channel of universal harmony. Hearing was a stream of magic audience. That is, you see, the whole universe exists because it is supported by harmony. The moment there is disharmony, there is discord and there is disturbance, and there is therefore a break. Things break up, clashes come. But beyond that, there is a continuous play below, sustaining all manifestation, a universal harmony. If that were not there, there would be no universe. It is moving. Harmony is sound. Sound is a projection of energy. That energy is something that is never goes away. It's an all-sustaining power. A conscious power that is sustaining the universe. That conscious power has to be harmonious. And that is why, in spite of us, in spite of our smallness and of our little clashes, little or big wars and battles and clashes and difficulties, there is beneath all this play of the universal beauty and love and grace and harmony that is always there. Otherwise, there would be no universe. There would be no world. There would be no existence. I come, I go. Man comes, man goes. Mankind remains. Flowers come, flower goes. Flowers go. Flowering never stops. There is something that goes on in spite of change, in spite of death, in spite of difficulty. That power, that all-sustaining power. And this is the magic that is there. And he felt it. He felt this play of the divine grace and beauty and harmony. That earth, that is to say, this little unconscious physical material life, which we call our life, is not open to. But if we come out of this littleness, and especially out of our ignorant ego, we can open up to all these different fields. One of the biggest trainings of the rishis that you can see, that is part of the Vedic culture also. All this is Upanishadic. The experiences that Sri Aurobindo is describing have a certain connection with the ancient Vedanta and the Veda and the Vedanta. And then he has gone beyond, naturally. But they always felt that there are forces. Behind the world of outer manifestation, there is a world of the play of different principles, forces, entities, powers. It is that which is the essential, permanent reality, not this outer manifestation which is impermanent, which comes and goes, which changes. So there are two things. There are certain things that are constant, and there are on the surface others that are the expressions of change. And this change goes up and goes down. What rises falls, what falls rises. So this is a pattern. This is not straight. So we climb, we fail, but there are other worlds where there is a continuity, there is a perfection. These spirits are always there, these forces are always there. So that is what they saw. They saw the spirit in the sky, the spirit in the fire, the spirit in the water. That is, it's not something that is put in the form of a childlike, you might say, image. There was a vision. The physical universe is more than physical. It's the play of forces that are beyond the physical. The physical universe is just a front. It's just a surface appearance. So for that, you have to have the vision of intuition, not mind. Mind has to be replaced by direct connection, intuition, illumination, revelation. So these are things that the mental man who belongs to the body, who lives in the body, he cannot hear. So out of a covert tract of slumber self, the voice came of a truth submerged, unknown, that flows beneath the cosmic surfaces. That slumber self, it is a subliminal state below our surface existence. There is this play of forces. It's like an energy that flows beneath the cosmic surface. And the flow of this energy only can mid an omniscient silence heard. Can be heard only when the ego and the noisy mind have gone. You can hear the sense of the consciousness. The self is the consciousness. A play of a consciousness that is there, all sustaining from beneath. The consciousness is not only above, the consciousness is also below. It's holding up everything. It's sustaining everything. And this can be heard only when the mind is not only silent, but omniscient silence. All-knowing silence. So it is something that can come only when the logical reasoning mind has stopped working. Because in the world of reason, you cannot have all knowledge. You will have half truth and half darkness. It's a dividing instrument. It will take you to, if we have developed our knowledge, our mental ability to its maximum, we realize that, then only do we realize that it is insufficient. As long as we haven't developed it to its maximum, it's a very helpful thing. But when we have developed our intellect to its maximum, then we get an indication that you have to go beyond. This is insufficient. It cannot tell you all the truth that you're seeking to know, because man wants to know. If you are a seeker of knowledge, you want to know. And you cannot know the truth with a faulty instrument. It's an instrument of knowledge which is always breaking down things to the size of its own capacity. So you have to become. So intuitive heart, you can hear it by becoming that, and that inner sense, not the mind. Identification of oneself with that. So slowly he is entering into these worlds by becoming part of them. It caught the burden of secrecies, sealed and dumb. It voiced the unfulfilled demand of earth and the song of promise of unrealized heavens, and all that hides in an omnipotent sleep. The original meaning of burden is significance, meaning. What it bears. Burden is what something bears. A sound bears a significance. It carries a significance. So that is the burden. It is not something that is really bothering you or hurting you. It has changed its meaning in due course. But the original significance of the word burden is what it contains. The sound, when it contains a consciousness, when it contains a truth, it bears that truth. It's not just a sound. So the significance of secrecies that are dumb, not really dumb, they don't speak to you because you can't understand them. There are truths, there are experiences, there are beings, there are all kinds of a whole play of forces to which we are completely closed if we have not prepared ourselves to come out of our little ego and our little ignorance, which is so sure of itself. Ashwapati has broken out of that. And so he comes into the contact of these worlds, and he sees and hears and gets in touch with realities. Until then, they wait. It is as if, it is like these beings say, this person is not yet ready for me, I'll stay away from him. Because we are so satisfied with ourselves. Especially if you are intelligent, it's a very dangerous thing after a point. Because you're very sure of yourself. You're satisfied of yourself, with yourself. So they remain quiet. The first thing, therefore, in the yoga of knowledge is shut down the mind. Develop the mind sufficiently and then shut it down. Completely make it quiet. Then only can you hear things that mind cannot understand. Mother has spoken a lot about that sometimes it is a blessing not to be too intelligent. It has, you're more open. You're capable of greater receptivity because your mind is not constantly agitating and trying to explain and trying to understand and trying to prove and doubting and all these things that the mind does. It has been trained to do these. When it is not doing that, it can become a transmitter. It can become something that can receive and then transmit these forces. Otherwise, they remain unknown to us, unheard by us, so dumb because they don't seem to speak to us, or we don't have the ability to listen to them. So they don't come near us. It voiced the unfulfilled demand of heaven and the song of promise of unrealized heavens. The demand of earth is bliss, happiness, perfection, immortality, freedom. They remain unfulfilled. But why have men always asked for these things? Somewhere, unknowingly perhaps to themselves, men have this yearning for perfection because there is already deep within that presence of the divine, which is the perfect. In each of us, the divine is there. The divine is perfect, complete, and what is perfect and griefless is what we may sometimes call heaven. It is not heaven far away, it is heaven within you. But we can't really experience because between that inmost being within us, which is divine, and our outer nature, there are so many layers of the disturbed vital nature, the complicated mental nature, the subconscious and the unconscious, they with their own characteristics. The subconscious that holds on to its darkness, that does not want to come out of the past, original inertia so easily. All these things are there. So it is as if that inmost seed of perfection stays unmanifest. It is an unfulfilled desire. But yet we always desire this. You cannot desire something that is totally alien to you. You cannot ask for something that you completely don't know nothing about. If I know nothing about something, I cannot ask for it. And man has always asked for perfection and immortality and absolute happiness, which he may call happiness, but which is actually bliss. Because it is already there somewhere. He has not given it a chance to come out and flower and manifest itself. That consciousness has to be allowed to grow, to open. And this is the song of promise. If you allow that to grow, you will have a new world, a new manifestation, a new creation. It is still there in an omnipotent sleep. It is almighty, but it is not come out into an active manifestation unless we are ready to manifest that the truth will remain hidden. So that is also part of the prayer that Mother gave to the students, that we be ready to receive them. That preparation that has to be made. It's not enough to say that we are the children of the divine. Do we know that? There is the divine present in us, but we don't have any connection with that knowledge. It is simply a statement. But if I can recognize it, I realize that there are powers inside me. But it is not my powers, this is His. My being has to be completely silent, free of ego, free of my attachment to myself. I'm very attached to myself. That has to go. And then that inmost being that remains always until then dormant can find an occasion, a chance to come out into the open. So this is the soul that is released from its cage. That is the canto. In the unceasing drama, carried by time, on its long listening flood that bears the world's insoluble doubt on a pilgrimage without a goal. So this is the kind of life we live. In the unceasing drama is really to move. So that which is constantly moving. We think time is the field of movement. Time is the field of change. But it is a movement of slow growth of consciousness. When you say listening, it's gradually out of complete ignorance. There's a beginning of manifestation of consciousness. That is what is really the purpose of the movement of time. But it stops very often at the world of mind. It's like a whirlpool, and there is a doubt. Where am I going? Why am I here? Am I here just to go and die one day? Why am I then born? All these things, so that there is a kind of foaming and spuming of the water in the river. Time is often compared to a river, that is the flood. Flood is the river. A laughter of sleepless pleasure, foamed and spumed. So this is the movement of the waters of time. There is life, there is the vital nature, the delight of existence. Continuously, in spite of change, there is the delight of existence. But without understanding why. It's a long, listening flood. A conscious development in the movement of evolutionary time, where we seem to be moving towards no goal. A pilgrimage without a goal. A pilgrimage is for a goal. We go on a pilgrimage because the goal is already there. That's why you start on a pilgrimage. You start a journey because you want to go to the end of the journey. But we don't know where we are heading. We are moving, but we don't know why we are and where we are going. And that is the whole paradox. We live, but we don't know why. We move, but we don't know where to.
What does listening mean here? Long
Conscious. It's a field of gradual development of consciousness. It is listening. Time is waiting for you to grow out of your ignorance towards a little more consciousness. And then your mind comes and it doubts, are you going to go somewhere? Are you going to reach the goal? What is the goal? Is it to go back to the starting point? It seems to be like that. And if there is a journey, it has to not stop, go back to the starting point. You have to go to the goal, to the end. And you don't know where the goal is. So this is the whole paradox of time. Time is often compared to a paradox. You start to end, and then go back to where you started from. And yet, there are murmurings of desire that cannot die. Because what you really want in the field of time, which is your field of life, life in the body, is to reach that goal of eternity, of immortality, the mortal reaching towards the immortal, the purpose of creation. This is the delight of manifestation. A cry came of the world's delight to be. So in spite of pain, in spite of difficulty, there is this need to be. We don't want to leave. This world may not be perfect, things may not be always very happy for us, but still beneath everything, somewhere we know that we have to go on. This is the first original movement, the will to be, not the will to leave. A cry came of the world's delight to be, the grandeur and greatness of its will to live. Live and grow and move. That is the first movement. That's what Bergson also speaks of, l'élan vital. It's the push, the drive that breaks the original inertia. Otherwise we go back to the inert state where there is an acceptance of tamas only. That tamas breaks and there is a push, there is a drive. That drive to go, the problem is where? It has to be completed by a conscious will. Will without consciousness has not any clear direction. When with the will there is consciousness, it can direct its journey. A cry came of the world's delight to be, the grandeur and greatness of its will to live. In spite of death, in spite of difficulty, in spite of suffering, it is something splendid that this tremendous vital force, which is sustaining the whole universe, the call of the soul's adventure into space. This is the reason why the divine has projected himself into manifestation. In each individual form, being, entity, he is entered. In every cell he is there. The soul's adventure. It will not be a straightforward movement. Adventure means there will be difficulties. It has to pass through experiences. And through these things, slowly it enriches itself. Moves into wider and wider fields. And this is what Ashwapati is doing. Realizing the whole complex infinitude of manifestation. A traveler through the magic centuries, this is the soul, and beings labor in matter's universe, how consciousness has to struggle out of ignorance, the whole long journey of breaking out of the original unconscious, then moving into the world of matter, breaking out of the world of matter, pushing into the world of life, consciousness moving out of the world of life into the world of mind. So this, you can say that continuous, almost obstinate need to move on. And it's only when you reach the mind that you know that it is not yet over, the journey is not over, because there's the final Absolute joy and absolute truth and absolute knowledge and absolute life is not yet mine. Absolutes don't belong to the mind. Completeness and perfection don't belong to the mind. So that's when you realize, when you reach the absolute edge of the mind, you realize it has to go somewhere beyond. You have to cross that barrier. So recall the soul's adventure into birth. It's a very long sentence because it's a very long journey, I suppose. A traveler through the magic centuries, and beings labor and struggle to be born, to grow. Beings labor in matter's universe. Its search for the mystic meaning of its birth. That which is the unborn, the infinite, the divine has entered into everything. And out of each thing slowly emerge, turning each thing into a manifestation of what it was originally. Each of us contains in us the possibility of the manifestation of the total divine. But each one is different. It's infinite possibilities, and infinite, it's not the same journey for all. So it's so complex, it's so rich. And joy of high spiritual response, its throb of satisfaction and content in all the sweetness of the gifts of life, its large breath and pulse and thrill of hope and fear, its taste of pangs and tears and ecstasy, its rapture's poignant beat of sudden bliss, the sob of its passion and unending pain. So this is the long journey. The river winds and you have the rising and the falling. The evolutionary movement is not an upward movement only. It is a spiral. Then each time we rise, we fall back into unconsciousness, we fall back into ignorance. Each time we fall into ignorance, we climb up out of ignorance. The deeper you fall, the higher you rise, the higher you rise, the deeper you fall. So it is a play of this complexity. He who is above, the Supreme, is now experiencing this in all manifestations, in all forms, in all beings. Ashwapati realizes the play of the divine in all things, in all forms.